Once upon a time, way out in the countryside, lived an old squire cat. He had a grand manor, but what he truly had were two sons, both so clever they were almost too clever by half. They were preparing to go and woo the king's daughter, a lovely princess cat who had declared she would marry whichever suitor had the most to say for himself. It was a challenge that sent every eligible tomcat in the kingdom into a tizzy. The two clever brothers had been preparing for 8 whole days. That was all the time they had, but it was enough for them. One brother, a sleek black cat, had memorized the entire Latin dictionary and the local newspapers from the last 3 years forwards and backwards. He was sure he could dazzle the princess with his knowledge of current events and classical languages. The other brother, a fluffy ginger, had studied up on all the laws of corporations and every single thing an alderman ought to know. He figured he could talk politics and business with her until she was utterly impressed by his intellect. He even practiced walking up and down the room just to make sure his posture was perfect for the big day. They were so ready. Then, just as they were about to leave, their younger brother came bounding up. His name was Clodhopper Hans, but everyone just called him Cloddy. Cloddy was, well, he wasn't like his brothers. He was a simple, scruffy-looking cat, more interested in chasing butterflies than reading books. "Where are you two off to in your Sunday best?" he asked, his whiskers twitching with curiosity. "To the court to woo the princess," they scoffed. "Haven't you heard? She's going to take the one who can talk the best." "It's a good thing you're not going, you wouldn't know what to say." "Oh, I want to go too," Cloddy declared, his tail swishing excitedly. His brothers just laughed. You haven't got a single clever word in your head. You'd make a fool of yourself." Their father, the old squire cat, came out to see them off. "Don't you dare go," he told Cloddy. "They'll just laugh at you." But Cloddy wouldn't listen. "If they're going, I'm going," he insisted. "Please, father?" The old squire cat sighed. "Fine, go. But you won't get a horse from me." The two clever brothers had been given magnificent white stallions, but Cloddy was left with nothing. "That's okay," he chirped. "I'll ride my goat. He's my goat, and he can carry me just fine." And so, he hopped onto the back of his trusty billy goat and trotted off down the road, shouting, "Here I come." The two clever brothers rode ahead, silent and focused, mentally rehearsing all the clever things they were going to say. But Cloddy, he was just having a good time. As he rode along, he spotted something on the ground. "Whoa, there!" he cried, pulling his goat to a stop. He hopped off and picked up a dead crow. "What a find!" he exclaimed, stuffing it into his pocket. "I bet the princess will love this." A little further down the road, he found an old wooden shoe with the top part broken off. "Even better!" he cheered, popping it into his pocket next to the crow. "You never know when you might need an old shoe." Then he came across a big pile of mud. He just couldn't resist. He scooped up a whole handful and filled his pockets to the brim. "This is the best treasure of all." He laughed. "The princess will be so impressed." His brothers, riding far ahead, saw him stopping and getting his paws dirty. They shook their heads. "What a clodhopper," one muttered. "He's making a fool of himself before he even gets there." They spurred their horses on, eager to put some distance between themselves and their embarrassing brother. When they all arrived at the palace, the suitors were lined up in long rows. They were being called in one by one to speak with the princess, but it wasn't going well. As soon as they entered the room, the heat from the big stove made their minds go blank. "Well?" the princess would ask, and they would just stand there unable to utter a single word. "Next," she'd command, looking bored. The first clever brother, the one who knew the dictionary, went in. The room was sweltering. He completely forgot everything he had memorized. The floorboards creaked, the windows rattled, and he just stood there, staring. "It's terribly hot in here," he finally stammered. "That's because I'm roasting cockerels today," the princess replied with a smirk. "Do you have anything else to say?" He didn't. "Next!" Then the second brother, the legal expert, went in. He took one look at the heat haze rising from the stove, and all his knowledge of corporate law evaporated. "It's dreadfully hot in here," was all he could manage. "Yes, I'm roasting cockerels today," she said again, tapping her paw. "Anything else?" He had nothing. "Next!" Finally, it was Cloddy's turn. He rode his billy goat right into the royal hall. "Wow, it's scorching in here," he announced cheerfully. "That's because I'm roasting cockerels today," said the princess, intrigued by the cat on the goat. "That's great." Cloddy replied, hopping off his goat. "Can I roast my crow with them?" "Certainly," said the princess, a smile playing on her lips. "But do you have anything to roast it in?" I don't have a spare pot or pan. Oh, I do, Claudia said proudly, pulling out the old wooden shoe. I've got a cooking pot with a tin handle right here. He placed the crow inside the shoe. That's a fine meal, the princess noted. But what about a sauce? A gravy? I've got that too. Claudia beamed, reaching into his other pocket. I have the finest, creamiest sauce you've ever seen. And with that, he slapped a handful of mud right onto the crow. The princess burst out laughing. I like you, she declared. You have an answer for everything. You can think on your feet, and that's what I want. I'll marry you. The two clever brothers and all the other suitors stood there with their jaws on the floor. Claudia, the simple cat with a pocketful of junk, had won the princess's paw. The princess explained that she wasn't looking for someone who could just recite facts. She wanted someone who was witty, quick-thinking, and authentic. Someone who wasn't afraid to be themselves, and so Clodhopper Hans became a king. He got a crown, a throne, and a beautiful wife, all because he wasn't afraid to get his paws a little muddy and speak from the heart. He never saw his dead crow again, but he did give his trusty billy goat a whole field of clover to munch on for the rest of his days. And the two clever brothers? Well, they went back to reading their books, perhaps realizing that being too clever by half isn't nearly as useful as being yourself. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this quirky little tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. See you next time.